What's on, minifans? Today we're making some crates. They could be ammo, guns, supplies. I leave that to your imagination. It's quite a simple project, but I decided just to make two, one big, one small, and then mold and cast the rest, so I could, spend as much time as possible on the original two. If you like anything in this video, feel free to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to stay up to date. The liking really helps with the YouTube reach. I have some affiliate links down in my description box below. I have a couple of hobby stores, one in the EU, or UK based, but it caters to the EU, and then one US based, and they sell all your hobby stuff, paints, miniatures, and it's at a decent discount. Then I also have some Amazon affiliate links for my most used items. Anyway, enough of this, let's get on to crafting. Okie dokie. I'm using my standard 2mm chipboard, and what I initially do, so for the big size crates, they're 1.5 centimeters by 4 centimeters. Then the smaller ones are 1.5 by 2.5 centimeters. So I just measure out some strips, and I do 5 parts for each one, and then 1 part as a lid. So I cut all these out, and then I glue them together, and I just use Mod Podge and I seal as I go. After that's all glued together, of course I did measure everything, but I still had a bit of an overlap on some of the layers. So I just give it a bit of a sand with a sanding stick. So 5 layers of a chipboard layered together is 1 centimeter. So what I've done is 2 for each side of each crate, 1 centimeter by 5mm little rectangles of chipboard, and these get glued on. Now I've marked on the big crates, I mark in 5mm from the edges, and then the small crates I just go in a couple of mils and then just glue these on. And again, I'm just using Mod Podge for this. Then for the lid of the crate, I do the same thing, 5mm by 1 centimeter rectangles of chipboard, glue those on. Same measurements, 5mm for the big crates, 2mm in for the small crates. I want there to be a bit of a gap between the lid and the main body of the crate, because I want a sort of dark line to really signify it's a lid. So what I do is cut some cardstock, just 1mm cardstock, a couple of millimeters less than the size of the chipboard, and I glue this on. And the arrows I've drawn is just the orientation, because the lid, although I have measured everything, it can be a little bit off, so I sort of did it by eye, making sure those little chipboard rectangles line up. Because I've used layers of chipboard, there is, you can see it's different layers. So I just use a bit of filler around the edges, just smooth it on down with some sculpting tools. Then for the lid, between the two little rectangles of chipboard, I decided to lay some quite fine, it's like 2mm wide cable tie. So I've cut some sections and I just glue those on. I wanted to do some extra plating on those little rectangles we've glued onto the sides of the crates. So I'm just using cardstock, and the main part of it is 5mm wide and 5mm high, with an extra 2mm on each side. So that's the thickness of the chipboard. And I score down those 2mm lines so I can bend the card. Then I cut all those out and just glue them on with Mod Podge. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit outshot for the gluing on part, so sorry about that. Time to glue the lids on. Now I get it all lined up, held firmly between the fingers, and then I just whack in some super glue to hold it together. Between those little rectangles of chipboard on the lid and the sides, I wanted something to go between them. So what I'm using is some old cable I have, and I've cut these little sections so it's like 2-wire cable. This was fiddly to do, having to use tweezers, so I just glue it on at the top first, on the lid first, and then sort of bend it round, get it into place, and whack down a little more super glue. I have to dab some super glue off with kitchen towels. I did go a little ham with that. Now, I want to make handles on either end of these crates, but as I said at the beginning, I do want to mold and cast these, so I don't want anything sticking out with a gap. So I figured what I can use is the insides of some of those hair curlers, those plastic things. So I just get into that with the clippers and then smooth it out with a knife, and just glue these little sections on to either end. Where would I be without my rivets? Of course, I have to do rivets. So it's just on the lid. On the two little rectangles of chipboard, I do 4, so 1 in each corner. And if you've not watched one of my videos before, these are fingernail beads. They're 1.5mm ones, and I just pick them up with a cocktail stick with some blue tack on the end, whack them in super glue, and put them into place. That's the build complete. So what I've done now is constructed a box of chipboard, glued the 2 crates into it, and I've Mod Podged the whole thing to seal it, and I've gone around the edges with hot glue to make sure nothing leaks, and then I've mixed up some silicone, chucked it in, waited until the next day, ping it out. Sorry about the video, it stutters here, but yeah, the mold is good. And then I go ahead and start casting. So I'm just going in with UV resin, and then under a UV light for, I did these for 5 minutes. Now, I did have an issue here, which I will address now. So, I did the whole thing in one go with UV resin, and it felt good, but like it felt strong. So I pinged them out of the mold, and they looked good, but they started sagging eventually. These are the ones I've used, but if I was to do this again, I think I would do it as layers. So like maybe 5 mil of UV resin, cure it, whack in another load, cure it. Probably do that 4 times for each crate. On to painting. I've primed everything black, base coated burnt umber, and then I've given it a decent dry brush of silver. And then all I do half and half. So I do half green and then half a darkish red. And I just paint the main body of the crate. And I try to leave the line between the lid and the main body of the crate. You might notice on some of these that are some little dotties from the resin, which I have left. It didn't bother me that much. And then what I do, some kind of sketchy, kind of edge highlighting, just around the edges of each part. I do a bit of silver to show where the paint has chipped off. Then I give them all a once over with my homemade black wash. And that's the project complete. Here's a couple of photos to show the finished pieces. Very pleased with these. There were a couple of issues with the cast versions. There are those little bubbles on the sides, but I figure it is fine. And some of the gaps between the lids and the crates didn't show up that well, especially on one side, but it's all good. They look decent, they stack well, could be used in lots of different positions, scenarios, so very pleased. Anyway, that's it for now, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers for now.